Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. Today we're talking about a Naruto fanfiction called Arron and Trex. Details about this fanfiction will be in description below. Throughout this fanfiction, we follow Shikamaru and Arron. And Arron is the girl that they end up finding. They end up finding her in the woods close to, their house. And she's completely covered in mud, bloody. She's unconscious, no idea what happened to her. So they take her in, get her cleaned up, and when she finally kind of, becomes conscious, she's immediately terrified of both of Shikamaru's parents. And she immediately curls herself in a corner, starts crying. Shikamaru, he recognizes this and it's like, okay, she might be a little terrified of adults because probably more men, because they immediately, as they were cleaning her up, they immediately recognized signs of okay, she's clearly been through some not so great things. But they end up leaving, so I just leave Shikamaru and Arron. And she's very distrustful because we get glimpses of what she's been through, of the people that she was with before also did this, but they weren't as nice to her for this long, and they didn't really, it was fake being nice so that she would lower her guard down. And so he would get her some water. He got her a water bottle, right? Opened it in front of her just to prove nothing is wrong with it. It has been tampered with. Nothing is, wrong. And because they're the same age and he's trying this hard and earned her trust, immediately it's attached to him. So, which isn't, the healthiest, but so anytime, he has to say, okay, I'm leaving the room, but only for a couple minutes. She still can't stand the sight, even the sight of his parents. Cannot at all look them in the eye. Didn't want to leave the room in the beginning anyway, right? But when she slowly kind of starts, coming out of the closet, because she would lock herself in there when Shikamaru would inevitably he has to go to school. Okay, lock herself in the closet, doesn't come out. They had walkie talkies though, so she would have one while she's locked in the closet, and he would have the other, walk to school. And he told Shoji obviously about this, oh yeah, there's this girl we found. She's living with us for now, and so that's how her and Shoji not really officially meet face to face. That comes later, but it's how they kind of she knows of him. It's the walkie talkie and it's him talking. Mainly them to her because that's more comfortable than her kind of broken speech patterns, because it's at first in the beginning a combination of not having been speaking for a long time, but also very clear that she does not speak Japanese. She's speaking some other language. It is not Japanese, so it's broken Japanese that she speaks to them, right? She understands them completely, but it is the words she tries to say them doesn't come out. But the first time, because they do get her you need some therapy. So, therapist comes over. And that was the first time, because as they were walking home, she's there's a man outside. So Shikamaru immediately panics. It's not he thinks it's an intruder, so because he knew, okay, therapist coming over. So he knows, this is the worst way, she's going to panic. He rushes home, literally runs home, and is because they're trying to basically get the closet door open. It's you're gonna make things worse. This isn't. It's you're gonna make things worse because it's clearly a comfort space to her, and then you're trying to break into it. And so during the little therapy session, he ends up setting the walkie-talkie, giving one of them to them and then going inside the closet with Arron so they can have their little therapy session through the door. And with that, he instructs like, okay, so she should have more contact with people, to get her used to it because she can't stay in the closet forever, right? And so that's how she ends up finally meeting Choji face to face, where they finally go over and, at our own time, she opens the closet. And, very briefly, she ends up touching his hand, and it's like, because she recognizes Choji after, like, having endless conversations with him. So, but she's still, like, a little skittish, but, like, she's still, like, she recognizes, like, that's Choji, Shikamaru's friend. But she's still firmly attached to Shikamaru and is by his side. When their teams are formed, with him, Choji, and, um, it's eventually decided that they'll end up going to Shikamaru's for dinner, right? To get to know one another as a team. And he can't help it, and obviously because like, oh, this will help Arron. And Shikamaru was like, this will be terrible. Because he doesn't want to overwhelm her. By this point, it is so, like, it's a mutual thing of how attached they are to each other, right? That he cannot imagine his life now without Arron at all. So it's a mutual thing of how um attached to each other they are, even though they do kind of acknowledge like it's probably not like a good thing for you to be the only one that she's like attached to, but still. So they end up going to his house, and what do you know? Asuma and Arron kind of know each other. I mean, because she's like 12 right now, right? So, like, they knew each other when she was like 8 or so, probably around 8. And so she doesn't remember much, but it's enough to, like, yeah, she recognizes Asuma. And Asuma, of course, would hella recognize her. I mean, and the difference, of how he remembers her to what she is now is like she's a shell of what she once was, right? This sassy, kind of loud person, and now is reduced to this skittish, quiet, like too afraid to make any noise. And she, and they both talk in a language like it's clearly not Japanese. So it's like, okay, well, at least he knows, completely understands Arron. And this happened because she's part of the Dust Clan, where they're like also able to control shadows, but to a more advanced degree where they can give them life. And this obviously best example is Trex, who by this point, because like she even said it, like Trex at this point is with them, but she's even kind of said it like how did she, I mean, she doesn't really want to go fully into it. It's like, how did she escape? Trex. Who the hell's that? I don't know either. But then one night, as they were like having dinner, right, and Arron was kind of there, that's when it was like raining really heavily. And I sensed it basically because Trex was that entire time looking for her. And so he kind of crashes through the wall, and they're both surprised because this giant lumbering shadow mass just kind of staring at him. And so they're like, oh, this is Trex. And then it's like, you know what? It makes sense how you're able to escape. And then, like, as the days kind of go on, they spend, when Trex is there, they kind of realize, I mean, yeah, he's this gigantic shadow creature, but he also really likes eating lamps and goes on about how he's going to eat the sun. So he's not, like, the brightest creature. it's like, he's fine. It's whatever. But that's where like that the death we find out that she's actually part, well, okay, was, because they're all dead, but that she was part of the Dust Clan, and Asuma is technically her godfather. And it's like, ooh boy. And they at one moment they kind of had like a thing, and Shikamaru was being worried because it's like, oh well, since technically you are family. It's like you're gonna take her in because she's just been living with them this entire time. And Shikamaru, like, he can't obviously like say no, I don't want you to take it, because like he can't, you know, it's not really his place to say, even if he really doesn't want her to go. But he really doesn't want her to go. And so, not that it really matters. She freaks out anyway and clings to him because she doesn't want to leave him. And so, especially since by this point, years have passed, a lot has happened. So while she does recognize Asuma, it's like she's not the same person she was a couple years ago, just like he wasn't the same person he was a couple years ago. And so it's kind of like, yes, I recognize you, but I also don't really know who you are as a person now. I know who you were then. It's very sad, kind of, but at least they're still keeping contact, so it doesn't really matter. But she ends up spending more time with him, like getting out of her comfort zone, and she ends up really bonding with Ino, right? Because they end up going to the hot springs, and it's just her and Ino on the side. And obviously, they end up talking. So she's like, "Well, you really like Shikamaru." It's like, so what is there really like about him? And she says, like, basically, a guy kind of boils down, like, she thinks he's really hot. It's like, cool, great. And she says something. It's like, well, what about him? Do you think? And she's like, and she can't really call it the word, as in like in Japanese. So she's like, she'll like show him. So she'll show her. So I don't remember what she even said, but basically, it's like, what does she like about him? His ass. There you go. It's like, why are you like this? And so, and obviously because Asuma, again, understands her language, he immediately was like, what are you teaching her? What are we doing here? During the whole Chunin exams is definitely where Arron makes the most progress with, like, herself and everything. Not that she hasn't been making progress, like, this entire time, but it's just the fact that she's pushing herself a lot more to do it, right? Never pass, like, completely out of her comfort zone, but just a bit where it's like, okay, she's like, I could do this, right? Not only for herself, but for Shikamaru to, because he's gone right now, right? He's not going to be back for like a couple of weeks. And so she's like doing this for herself, but also to, like, Shikamaru be proud. But then also to kind of repay back, like, his parents. I mean, they took her without question, and they're very patient with her, despite kind of how she is around them, which is very jumpy, suspicious, kind of. So she really starts to push herself, and she starts by, like, she makes breakfast. First off, Shikaku's not really there because he's he's working, but she's making, because she had went grocery shopping, so she came back, and she came back to Arron making food. It's like, oh, and like she didn't, and this is like a big step because Arron froze for a bit. It's very awkward, but she didn't run away instantly. And so she made the food, and so it's like she made it very clearly for them. And it's like, this is big progress. So she took even like more of a step, and she's like, how about you come with me to, take this to Shikaku? Like, I mean, like she, wasn't expecting her to accept, but Arron did, because it's like, this is a big step, like repay them and everything. And so they do end up going, and, he's just as surprised, like, oh my god, right? And so throughout the entire day, like, and she does end up like saying thank you to them, right? Even though it's very hard for her to look them in the eyes and everything. So her and they end up hugging it out. Not with Shikaku, that's still intimidating, but they end up hugging it out. So they end up really bonding over the time where Shikamaru is not there, right? And they end up having dinner. And is she as talkative as she would be with Shikamaru around? No. But it's just the idea, like, that she's sitting there, because she would never just sit there. And meanwhile, Shikamaru is not having a great time. He's going to like withdraw from being away from her. He's like irritated. He just wants to go home. He's like stressed over her because of, again, how she is, where they didn't know how she would do without him because it's like she, again, relied very heavily on him. So they were worried she would never come out of like the closet with him not around. And Shikamaru was worried about the same things. Like, is she eating? Is she, drinking properly? Like, she's still in the closet. Never know. But when he does finally come back, she's a lot more, like a little bit more talkative too. And Shikamaru recognizes too. I mean, she's still just as attached to him, right? Doesn't want to leave side. As soon as he comes back, wraps around him. Doesn't want to leave. But he notices that she's a lot more comfortable with his parents. Even in front of them, a lot more talkative and a bit more open. And so the progress is definitely there, especially when it's just Ino and her. Have like a little girls' day, right? So they love that for them. So they end up going out, and this ends up being like a wild adventure for them because they end up going to a home, and it's a home for women who suffer like from domestic violence to go to, right? So just to come to this home to have a safe place to stay, right? Some children are there, obviously, because like, those are your kids, and so they end up fighting about this home. And obviously, there's one of the guys is like one of the guys is there, obviously trying to bang on the door to get his wife or girlfriend, one of those, to come out. Doesn't work. Trex takes care of it immediately, but they end up helping around, and obviously they want to do more. And this leads to her asking Sumo like about her like the money. She's stupid rich, so it's fine, right? Especially since she's basically kind of taking this money, buying the property, and then just fixing it up for them. So it's like when all this money comes back to her, she's gonna be super rich. But so she's doing all this, and then it starts with this house, and then it's like, okay, well, there's this house like 3 blocks away. That's the same situation. Okay, so she's doing all of it. She like, and this is like her mission, like her goal. Like she likes doing this. She wants to. Especially since protection is like, oh well, they can't be there all the time, right? So once she fixes up the house, she ends up summoning more of her shadow creatures because with Shikaku, she ended up kind of training with him for a bit of how to make, because Trex was kind of like an accident. That was, but like a welcome one. But how to purposely make them, she doesn't know. And so they ended up making Mothball, which didn't go great, but because it started eating, it was a small thing, and then it started eating everything in the house, and so they had to get it to cough up all the books so they could put it back. And even Shikaku was surprised at this because it's like, Trex is this well-behaved, sweet thing, and then you just have this weird terror of a thing. What is this? It's eating everything. They eventually got it to settle down after scolding it. So she decides to make another one for the house to protect it. And it's like this long, kind of almost snake-like thing. So it burrows under like the ground and protects the house from if any other people decide to show up and with the intent to harm. And she gets so into this to the point where, like, obviously Shikamaru was worried at first time going out, not with him, it's with they're having fun, doing whatever. And the first, like, she's late the first time, right? Like, she's late because I have a set curfew, like, okay, this is when coming back, but they're so absorbed in the work that even loses track of time. And so she finally remembers, like, oh yeah, and she knows how Shikamaru is, so she's like, he's gonna be, it's like, come on, it's like, I'm gonna be in trouble. She's like, that does not sound like a me problem. It's like, ma'am. Like, her sassiness starts to come out more. She's more comfortable with and all of them. She's like, that does not sound like a me problem. So when she finally gets there, she's like, well, Shikamaru's probably, he's gonna be really upset. You might start crying. It's like, I mean, he's upset. I don't know the crying bit, but so they do eventually, because he was pacing back and forth, and as soon as he heard the door, like the knock on the door, he would run into it. It's like, are you okay? It's like, is everything okay, sir? You cannot be this worried. But um, they do end up eventually running into someone, and this is that after taking care of the first home, they go right down a couple blocks to the second home, and that's where they end up meeting this other boy there, and he didn't really know anything because Ino was busy there, so she asked him to follow her for a bit because she's not allowed to be alone after an incident. Like, she's not allowed to be alone, and he ends up finding because she was branded. All of them were branded when they were, taken away and with those people. All of them were branded, and so when she's getting hugged by, like her shirt lifts a little bit, and so that's where he sees like part of the brand. He immediately recognizes it, and now he remembers where he's seen her before, and he knows her number, right? Just like, or well, he like because he has the same kind of brand too on him, like a number, and so he ends up following them home back to where she's living, and obviously Shikaku's like, "Oh, hello." It's like, I need to speak with Arron. Immediately on guard. What are we talking about here? It's like, what do you need to speak to Arron for? Because it's not like she has any, she's very attached to all of them. Very few people, right, outside of them, which is just Choji, and Asuma. And Asuma's kind of like, barely because stranger and everything, but still, it's like she doesn't have anyone outside of it. So it's like, who are you? So immediately they're like on guard, and they get more on guard when he goes to explain. It's like, oh, like when he's talking to Arron, it's like, because they see Arron like hyperventilating and getting like upset. It's like, because she's remembering all this, and it's like, okay, what is this? Until it clicks to them because she responds in the same manner, revealing her number. It's like, oh, they were both in the same place and they both escaped. And so, but she's already like, this is like, she's taken some step forwards, and now this feels like, after all of this, is like 5 steps backwards because of everything. So, but after that incident, he doesn't really come to bother her again. Like, they see him around, but it doesn't really come to bother her again. And during one of their trips out, kind of recognizes Arron. She's squinting at things. And at first she thought, okay, she's suspicious, because that's how Arron usually is. But the more she looks at her, she's like, this doesn't look like, she asked her, it's like, could you read that sign? It's like, no, blurry. So they end up going to the eye doctor. Turns out she's blind as shit. It's like, so, which explains why she was like extra terrified, all right? She doesn't know where she is, but now she's also like, she can't fucking see you. Like, she can't see your face. And so they get her glasses, and this entire time, Arron, she doesn't really feel the need to say anything about it. She didn't really care. And this like works out best. She's like, it'll be a surprise, and especially a surprise for Shikamaru. She's already a hardcore ship for them. She does not care. Even though they've kissed plenty of times at this point, told each other, I love you. She's like, this is it. She's like, girl, this is it. You two are start dating. But when they finally showed off like her glasses back to when they go back to the house, she's finally looking at them. She's like, oh my god, Shikaku. It's like, you're as ugly as I thought you were. What does that mean? Okay. And they're all recognizing this. And so, Shikamaru comes out with holding Mothball. And he's like, this is my glasses. And he looks at her. It's like, oh. But then he's like, oh, please don't tell me she was blind this entire time. It's like, oh yeah. It's like, how bad was it? It's like, oh, this is the first time she's seeing you. You mean to tell me any other time she just looked at you, you were like a blur, but like she didn't really see your face? Like, so this obviously kind of makes Shikamaru kind of nervous, because it's like, this is technically the first time she's seeing him, and it's like, what if she doesn't really like him anymore? And he's like, got her, but she sees Sasuke anymore, and it's like, ugh. But no need to worry about that, because Arron, being blunt, she doesn't really care. She's like, hot. Nice. After a thorough inspection, she concludes, he's hot. Yes. Then after they kind of deal with the whole, attack on the leaf thing that happens, and Gara losing control, well, goes to sleep, whatever. But everything works out. Everyone lives. People are traumatized, but it's fine. And by that I mean Newt and Mothball, right, her two creations, end up going to help out. So he lives. I mean, he lives. It's just terrifying to him. But they end up going out, help out Hiruzen, and then she goes to look for Shikamaru, because of course. And they see Gara and everything, so she's like, whatever. Trex, eat him. What? He does end up eating him. I just want to say that dirt cat and all, doesn't matter. He's eaten, and so now they're just kind of looking at us like, okay. And Shikamaru, as much as he wants to go to sleep, like he agrees with Arron. It's like, let's just go take a nap. Let's just be done. Let's just be done with this. He's like, all right. You should probably spit out the guy though. I'm not gonna lie. She's like, why? It's like he tried to kill us. Why? And he wants so badly to agree with her, but he's like, can't keep him. Just spit him out. And so they spend like 2 hours trying to get Trex to spit him out, but they eventually do. And then on the flip side, with like Newt and Mothball, doesn't matter. They just ate everyone. I mean, they didn't eat Hiruzen, but they did eat, some of the Hokages. They just kind of ate. They just ate. So, and he's like, traumatized from it. So when it does eventually, like, he gets released from the fucking box thing, he ends up running into Shikaku, and he's like talking about like these creatures, like, and he kind of vaguely remembers Shikaku describing them, but he's like, Shikaku's like, was one of them just saying Newt over and over again? It's like, yeah. It's like, oh. So he kind of quickly puts together like, yeah, that's Arron things, but everything's worked out. They go home, and I think it was Mothball who ended up coughing up one of the Hokages. So still worked out though. Just, not the way anyone expected. That's technically where it ends. It's still like ongoing, and like they never put it on like, on hiatus or discontinued, so it's technically still ongoing, but it also hasn't been updated in like 2 years. So I don't know. There's still hope. I've read fanfics before where it hasn't been updated in like 3 years, and the person came back and it's like, hey, I've been gone for a while. Anyway, here's a new chapter. I thought you were dead, but so maybe there's hope. I don't know. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.